All right, welcome back. Hello, how's it going, y'all? I'm your host, Donald Rice. Welcome back to the Aspire to Be Great Summit. I'm here with Riana Milne. How are you doing today?
Hey, Donald, I'm doing beautifully. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm doing well, doing well. Excited to have you. It's another beautiful day over here. So, I'm gonna go through a quick, brief thing of your bio. Obviously, your bio is very, very long. You have a lot of good stuff going on here. So I'll just go through a quick summary.
Sure.
So Riana Milne is a certified global life and love trauma recovery coach. She is a certified clinical trauma and addictions professional, a certified mindfulness coach, number one bestselling author, and the host of the podcast called Lessons in Love in Life and Love. Excuse me. Educational speaker and licensed mental health counselor for over 21 years in Palm Beach County, Florida. All right. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
Just last month, I was featured in Forbes magazine, and also I was selected to be one of the top 10 coaches to follow for 2022 from Wealth Insider magazine. And this year of 2021, I was nominated as one of the top 100 successful women in the world. And I'm in a book that has come out and became an international bestseller. And I'm one of the profiles featured in there. So I had a lot of good honors happen this year for me.
Good honors or great honors? It sounds great.
Pretty great. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's start off. Let's talk about your career. Did you always knew you were going to be a coach growing up?
I knew I wanted to be a counselor. In my middle grades of junior and a little bit of senior high, I was very bullied. And then at age 16, I lost my very dear friend to a drunk driver. And I asked my mom if I could go to a counselor and get some help processing that grief. And she goes, no, no one in this family will ever go to a counselor. So I said, then I'll grow up and become one. And in my defiance, that's what I wanted to do. So I started reading psychology magazine and I started reading books from the spiritual masters to get healing. So that back then that was Tony Robbins, Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, the Dalai Lama, Marianne Williamson and the Course of Miracles. So I'm reading these kinds of books from 16 to my 20s. And then I joined a Course of Miracles group all through my 20s. And spirituality became a very important part of my healing and my confidence when I was going through my 20s. I started a model and talent agency in school at age 26. And that became very successful within 6 months. I was told, this was in a small town, Erie, PA, like, this will never go. Nobody's going to be a model here. And then, I said, well, watch me make this happen. And I went commercial real people. I knew it wasn't a fashion town. So I had models ages 5 to 85. And people are saying they won't get work. And they all knew to say, watch me. So we had large size special models. We had senior models. We had children models. So we did a lot of billboards, commercials. We had a great time. And within a year, it became Model and Talent School of the Year and the International Model and Talent Association Awards. So it did very well for 10 years. And then I loved counseling my people within the agency, right? Not an official counselor. I went back to school later in life to get a triple master's in applied clinical counseling psychology, and then got certified in coaching in 2009 and 10 for singles and couples, and then went into trauma work and became a CCTP, certified clinical trauma professional. I also worked in schools, every grade level, kindergarten through college, as what they call a SAC counselor, student assistance counselor, which was working with emotionally upset kids, and the majority coming them from traumatic homes. I was also a drug and alcohol addictions counselor. So I worked in rehab centers. One was for teens, one was for women from the prison system. And I worked in a mental health unit, a mental health care unit for a hospital for kids ages 5 through 19. So through all these many years of having a practice, which was called Therapy by the Sea in New Jersey, I also took on these side jobs and, really learned about working with those of trauma and helping them heal and go on to greatness. And that all began with my models and actors believing that they could get great roles themselves. Many of them went on to LA, New York, modeling around the world, in Paris and other places.
Wow, wow, wow. That's awesome. So it sounds like you kind of like in the beginning were kind of going against the grain. Your parents wanted you to do something, and you kind of had your own mind of what you wanted to do. Um, when you go through a transition of careers, is that something that like it's obviously going to be challenging? Is that something that takes time, or you just kind of go in head first and hope for the best?
No, for me, I mean, as a young person, I also worked for a top radio station. I actually ended up winning a modeling scholarship, so that turned my confidence around and started modeling at age 13 in Philadelphia for large department stores. And then by 14, I was hired by the top radio station doing promotional events. And I loved that. It was working around Philadelphia with the people of Philly and working with entertainers. One of my favorite gigs was dancing the entire encore with Freddie Mercury of Queen the night of the opera concert at a concert hall called the Tower Theater. So that was the kind of gigs I was doing and getting paid for it. So I knew I loved radio and television. So I went to Penn State for my bachelor's in broadcasting communications. And then later, I got the psychology degree, but combining them together, I've had several radio shows where people could call in and talk to me, and I play music in between. I had TV shows. So I always liked creativity around my experience. And I always had a super growth mindset. But this mindset for success, I started studying in my late teens and early 20s. I've been teaching that for 40 years. So whether they were models, actors, or my clients who have gone through trauma, to get on the other side of trauma, they need this mindset to believe that they deserve a better type of relationship, that they can do the dream career that they want, that they don't need to be stuck in depression and anxiety. The answer is not in a psychotropic pill. The answer is within themselves and their mindset.
Wow. So I bet if I had the dictionary and I looked at the word great, you'd be right there next to it. Um,
That's sweet.
so now, how do you maintain like this positive outlook on everything? Is it something that you grow up with? Or is it something that you kind of had to shift later on in life, as far as yeah, having that positive outlook on everything and being so optimistic and really believing in yourself, having that self-esteem like you were saying earlier?
Yeah, well, like I said, I had low self-esteem as a teen because I was really bullied until I got into the modeling end of things as a late teen. I've had a very difficult, critical mother who's never gave us a compliment. We kids didn't hear the words "I love you." My dad was very emotional, but he wasn't home. Like he was a very loving man, and we later found out in life he wasn't home much because he was FBI and CIA. We didn't know that. We just knew dad wasn't home, So all these are part of the traumas I identified in 2012. What are the top childhood traumas? And this year in trauma work, they're saying 100% of us have childhood traumas. So it's important to identify what they are and how you brought them forward in life. So because I grew up not hearing compliments from my mom or not hearing great job, I know you tried your best. Instead, if I got my best time in swimming, she would say it's not as good as so-and-so's time. Like it was never good enough. So the mindset work that I was learning from the masters, I started doing that. And then I started teaching it, because the models and actors from Erie, PA, like my large size model, Jennifer, used to hear from her family, "You're fat. This is a joke. You're throwing away your money." Well, this girl ended up making a fortune as a Ford special size model when she got done her training with me. So these messages you hear when you're young, you can take forward in life and believe in them, and they sabotage you in success in every areas of life, whether it's career or love or as a parent or as a friend. Your money mindset, these 10 traumas can really impact you. And what I do today, I went global in 2017 as a life, love, trauma, recovery, and mindset coach. So that's what I do full time today, working with people all over the globe, which is lovely. It's great to meet people everywhere from different cultures. We have incredible conversations. But, and I work with men and women, straight and LGBTQ, singles and couples, because childhood trauma has no prejudice. So no matter what traumas they endured, it's like a puzzle piece for me. I mostly work with people one-on-one. And then we have to change the unconscious messages and the behavioral patterns that tend to be sabotaging them as an adult. And then they learn the mindset to make them feel successful in whatever their life desires are.
Wow. Got you, got you. What's something that you commonly see with some of your clients, as far as like something that's holding them back? And like you said, taking something that's could be thought of as a negative and turning it into actually into a strength. Like you said, with the lady who was a little overweight, ended up being a model.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Well,
so
there's all kinds of things. There's negative, false negative assumptions. That's one. So you assume your partner's doing something wrong because you grew up in a household where the father was a cheater. Okay, so if you're a female and your spouse is late, you assume like he's out there doing something wrong. This is false negative assumptions. One of our top politicians in America recently did what we call blurting out. And that is saying totally inappropriate things to defend himself, to make himself look special. Narcissistic personalities is from someone that had childhood trauma. People pleasing. If you grow up with difficult parents, the way that you survived as a child was pleasing them or being the good kid or not talking back, or if you did try and talk back to defend yourself and they might have whacked you across the face or you got a deeper punishment, you learned, okay, I'm in trouble, I'm shutting down. And a lot of men do this, right? And this is what we call passive aggressive. They don't talk. So if the woman's there, I just want to talk to you, and he doesn't talk for days, he just shuts down, or he gets angry at something else and he acts moody and whatever. This is passive aggressive behavior because they haven't learned that to voice your opinions and your feelings is okay. So this is how part of it became survival patterns. Let's talk about someone who's a manipulator. Let's say they didn't have love at home, or it was a very toxic environment at home. Let's say it's a young boy, but he got love from his teacher and he learned, well, if I schmooze her and charm her instead of coming home with a D and I'm going to get punished, maybe I can pull off a C. If I really help around and I'm really charming and I'm funny and I'm the class clown, so it's coping mechanisms. And then a lot of those people come into adulthood charming, manipulative, lying to get their way. Or also, I did a big study on comedians. Comedians usually have a lot of childhood trauma. They use comedy so their peers would like them. So there's so many coping mechanisms. Perfectionism, jealousy or control of your partner because you didn't feel good enough, as a person. You might have been teased, which is personal trauma number 7 out of 10, and bullied because you didn't fit into the norm at school. You might have been a heavy, overweight, or chubby child. You might have been skinny and gawky and called a nerd. You might have tried to come out as a lesbian female and people are calling you mean names because they didn't want to accept who you felt you were. You could have been born with a medical issue and people teased you about that. So those messages and experiences tend to stay with adults for a very long time until we heal those original traumas.
mm, that's interesting. I have a buddy of mine who I really love him and care for him. I try to, inspire him to do good things and great things in his life. And a lot of the problems he had, it's just like he doesn't see his potential at all. What's something we can do to kind of break out of that and help us see our strengths and what we can actually achieve rather than looking at what happened to us and holding us back in our life?
Well, you do have to look at the original traumas, and there is no quick fix to trauma recovery. In all my trauma classes, it takes about 6 months. So I work with clients one-on-one. The very first module out of 10, it's a 150-page workbook from 2 years of research that I've done. So the very first part is recognizing the trauma messages and the patterns and how they're impacting you as an adult. That's part one. And then what is the life you desire, and starting to set up goals around that. Then fighting the messages of, I can't do that, or I'll never be able to do that. Those are those negative messages we have to fight. Balance in life, spirituality for healing. Everything I do is holistic, mind, body, spirit. So spirituality is a big part of the healing, and faith that you believe you can become what you dream to be. Very important component. So this is not a quick fix. Yeah. And coaching, my style of coaching, I don't know about everybody else's, but it's very educational. My clients have a lot to learn. And these strategies and these techniques that they learn early on in their first 3 to 5 sessions, they use throughout the 6 months. And we keep practicing and practicing them. Like I just got off a session with someone, who's 45. She had 45 years of negative messaging. She goes, why can't I get this right away? And I said, because you have 45 years of unconscious conditioning that we are changing. And it's a whole new way of communicating, and we look at the parent-child relationship with her children. And then we look at her parent-child relationship when she was a child with her critical parents, and her friendships where there's no boundaries and she has to start doing boundaries. So there's so much to learn in all these life areas that we do it a step at a time, and we keep practicing and practicing. And when they see that they're getting successes and things are changing, this is when the confidence goes up. I really describe it like a rainbow. It's the best way for me to envision it. And I was there too, because I had childhood, then I had love trauma. And I couldn't figure out, what am I doing wrong? Because therapists don't get trained in childhood trauma. We don't get trained in love trauma recovery. So, this is why most therapists don't teach these, because therapists aren't teachers. Me as a coach, I'm teaching these strategies. So, I didn't know how to fix it. I went to 7 therapists. I didn't know what was the problem with my ex-partner and why he had a whole secret life and why he sabotaged our life. And he didn't know. His last words to me is, why do I sabotage everything I love? And I said, I honestly don't know. But for my healing, I need to figure this out. And that's what led me to the 2 years of research and putting together my books, Love Beyond Your Dreams, Break Free of Toxic Relationships to Have the Love You Deserve, that went to a #1 bestseller, and Live Beyond Your Dreams, From Fear and Doubt to Personal Power, Purpose, and Success, which is about the mindset for success. So they are meant to go together because they must work hand in hand. And then I have a 150-page workbook that my clients use with me. So as a team, they answer the worksheets, how they answer it, then I know how to help them. So it's very individualized, very back and forth, but it's amazing how well it works. I just love what I do.
Wow. You're providing a lot of value. I have a question, like, does it get to a point where somebody graduates and you think they're comfortable on their own to just go and do their thing, or do people kind of fall back into their old habits, and maybe like even like the people around them, do they influence them? Let's say, you figured out a new outlook on life, and you know what you can do, what you're capable of, but then people around you are just kind of chipping away at, the way you're just the new you.
Well, 2 things happen, and they know to do this. They start weeding out the negative people in their life, or they try to educate, teach those people what they're doing. And they say, I'm working with a life coach. I'm learning to be more positive. I used to talk about all my problems with you all the time. That's all we did was bitch and moan to each other on a phone call. And that's the pattern they got into. It's like, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm really learning to be positive and have more gratitude in my life, and look at what I do have versus what I don't have. And then their friend might say, well, how do you do that? So they might start teaching them some of the things they're learning. So, you actually teach the more important people in your life, like parents, like kids, like your friends, what you're working on and why it's important to you. And then it's a very important part of this process that they start learning to meet more spiritual and positive people as well, more like-minded people. Really, there's about 5% of the population that lives a conscious life. To be living a conscious and evolved life. Evolved means being your highest and your best self. Conscious awareness means you think about everything before you do, say, or write it or text it. Nothing is done just by remote. Everything is thought about. And when things do occur to you, you don't go into victim mode. You say, okay, why did that happen? What can I do to fix this? Let's use the example of COVID. Everyone's freaking out. Everyone's negative. Oh my God, we have to stay at home for a month. They're freaking out. I'm like, wow, I have extra time. I can start writing my book I wanted to write. So we always look at the positive. What do we do? What good do we find out of the bad? This is part of the mindset, right? We don't go into, oh, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but we don't do any false negative assumptions. We go, what can we do? And we start working on other things. That's just one example. So when they get this, they very rarely go back because, like the rainbow, they keep working on these skills. The other side is a pot of gold. And they come to love who they are. And very often my people don't have a lot of self-love. So it's very important I teach that. And the pot of gold is like, they look back, because part of the graduation session is looking back where they started at the original life wheel. And they were judging where they were 10, 30%. They're like 92%. They're like, oh my God, my life's totally changed. I can't believe who I was 6 months ago. So that's the profound. It's like, I would never go back to that person. So they know all the techniques. And yes, life happens, hard stuff happens, transition happens. But when we have the mindset to work through those challenges, you stay the course. You know what to do. And like working with people, and this is cool because this has been time tested now. Like, I'd have partners come in who were fighting and this toxic cycle in 2006 or 7. Then eventually they married, and I'm the officiant. I'm also Reverend Riana. So I married them up in Jersey where my other office was. Wow, and they're still together. It's 2021 and they're still happily together. So these couples I've watched, not like they were my experiments, but they are using the skills that they learned, better communication, how to support each other, be each other's loving friendship, provide safe yet passionate relationships that are romantic and fun. And they stay the course. They don't change. It's awesome.
Wow, you do a lot. Huh. I have a question. How does somebody learn to prioritize career, family, relationships, and is it better to focus on like what you want to achieve, or is it better to look at like how do I affect others and these kind of things? That's kind of a hard
Okay. Well, let's talk about that. If you're a single person, we call them balanced triangles. So there's many balanced triangles that I review with my client. So one is mind, body, spirit. Are we nurturing all three? Okay. Another one is career, play, and purpose. So if you're a single person and you don't have children, your children are raised, let's say someone in my age cohort, and they want to do a purpose-driven career. So, and they also want a relationship. Well, they know having a relationship takes time. So we become okay with, I don't want a relationship right now. I want to grow this career, which is what I did when I went global. And I was working for 12, 14-hour days because I dedicated and focused on that goal for the first year. First year, I don't want to be dating. I don't want a relationship. I don't want someone saying, come on, are you working now? It's like, yes, I want to work. I want to build this platform. I want to build my online school. I need to finish off my workbook. So we learn to dedicate what is it that we truly desire first. Then when that settles down, it's like, all right, I got it in balance. I'm ready for a relationship now. Then we'll focus on that sphere while we're holding the business together. But it's really important that if you do work a lot, like a lot of your clients might in this summit, that you also, if you work hard, you got to play hard. Like I'm a world traveler before COVID. I love dancing. I love concerts. I love music. Like I am midday Friday through the weekend, I'm out playing. I'm about to take a 2-week vacation to help my daughter and her family. They're having a new baby. So, I dedicate what's important to me. And I just tell my clients, all right, I'm gone for 2 weeks. If you need me, you text me. So you learn to create the boundaries that work for you. If you're a married couple, then you have to do what's best for you and your partner and your family, right? So you figure that out together and you stick to the program. And if you're married, you work as a team. Nobody's against each other because the marriage won't last. We are a team. And one of the quotes I have, it's you and me against the world. So if you don't put your partner first, the relationship doesn't last. Too many people that are married put their kids first, say, oh, we don't have time, or we're too tired to date, or we don't do anything together because we're running the kids all weekend. Well, that's a bad excuse because a marriage will fall apart by the time the kids are going off to college. So in the parent triangle, it's you, me, and us. Us is the family and us as the couple, right? And they just keep breaking down. And me time is my work time, gym time, girlfriend time, and he has his own. So if he's playing golf for 4 hours, I get 4 hours with a girlfriend, right? So you have to have the balance. And then what are you doing together as a team to raise your family? And it's so much better with the millennials. I got to say, the men in the millennial generation are so much better, Donald, than what my men were. I grew up with Ozzie and Harriet and Leave It to Beaver, where the woman were the little housewife and served her man the martini when he walked in the door, and she cooked and cleaned. That was it. No matter how smart she was, that was her life.
Yeah.
And, then he would sit down, read the newspaper, sit in front of the TV, and that was supposed to be happiness. And then in the 70s, when I started going to college and got out, well, we had to do it all. There was even a commercial for a perfume that said, I go to work, I do the cooking, I raise the kids, and I'm happy. Well, and the men did nothing. They go to work, come home, and they wouldn't help out with the kids. So then it was all this big burden on the woman. Yes, I'm working as many hours as his is. Now I got a grocery shop, and now I got to raise the kids. And so many women of the 70s era were so unhappy in their relationships because they didn't feel supported at all. Right. So, now I see the millennials doing a much better job. When the men want to be parents, they are there 150%. Like my son-in-laws are amazing young men, and they are helping to raise those kids. And I see the children so much happier that they have very active dads and moms, and they do it as a team. So, it is all about balance.
Yeah, that's interesting. You brought up the old way things used to be. My mother was entrepreneur, crazy work. I mean, crazy like work, like you
Yeah.
don't see that a lot. And do you feel like it's like I feel like I always grew up with that. Like where my dad's African American. He moved over to California by himself, had to hustle, hustle, hustle. My mother, she worked super hard as a woman.
Yeah.
Um, we put these. Is it like these stereotypes in front of us to break through for like a challenge, or is this something that you just kind of transition in and you're just doing you're just doing like for you? I mean, being a woman who works and does all these things and has beautiful families, just doing different things, being great. Like you said, did you grow up feeling like you were going to be like you were supposed to be a housewife and then you had to do all this against the grain,
Well, I
or?
married early. When we went to college, we married our college boyfriend and girlfriend. That was like expected.
Mhm,
So I married at 21 and I had my 2 daughters at 23, 24.
mhm.
And by 25, my husband ended up frauding my mother out of $200,000. By
Wow.
26, I lost love and respect and trust. And I said, I can't love someone that rips me off and lies to me.
Yeah.
So I divorced and I started my model and talent school at 26 with the first month's rent because we had to have a bankruptcy. Plus, now I took on that $200,000 loan because it was integrity. It was the right thing to do to get my mother her money back. So here I am, a single mom, raising kids, working 5 jobs. That's why I have all this experience, because I needed income from many different sources, because, providing a home for my daughters, plus, providing what we need. And then I also had to pay child support for joint custody. So I was mother, father. And many of the women in my age category ended up being like that. We were the strong ones. We had to become masculine, because if we weren't, our kids would not make it, right? So we had to be mother, father. And our sons, I did not have sons, but my son-in-laws grew up with the same type of situation. Okay, so they respect their wives, are very respective of me. I get along with the parents because we grew up with that same situation, right? So this is why I think the millennial men have a high regard for women, and it's not easy to parent and supportive of their wives, because they know they're working plus with the kids. So this is why I think the millennial men, they suffered through that single mom trying to do everything, and the dad's kind of taking off or not being that involved for the most part, for many of them.
Wow. Well, we're almost up on our time. I got a couple more questions, and I'm gonna let you go.
Sure. We can talk all day.
I know, right? I have a question. So, you're very good at communicating your experience through life. I mean, whether it's something good that happened, bad that happened, you have a very interesting outlook on it. But to be able to communicate that is very, very difficult for a lot of people that I see. What's a something that someone can learn to be able to communicate in a way that it lands with people, or is it something that you're just naturally good at? If you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, I have to teach all my clients what I call empowered kindness. Very often there's a lot of anger, from because of the ex-partner really hurt them. And I understand that. I've been through that.
Hmm.
Very often they come from original homes where they're not allowed to speak their feelings, so they shut down. Or they came from a family that yells and screams all the time, their needs or when they're upset, and they have to learn that's not the way to communicate. Right. So there's a lot of, my first degree was broadcast communications. Right. So I really am combining all this education and teaching them to communicate in a whole different way. So it's empowered kindness. And when they get this, I'm thinking now of a woman that had, 2 very toxic marriages, and her son grew up in this situation, and his confidence is lacking because these 2 men were very critical to both of them. So now she has to learn a whole new way of communicating to help raise herself and her son's self-esteem. So I said, because you're in the household together, the 2 of you, you have to say the words, "Hun, we're a team and we have to support and help each other." She goes, "Wow, that makes so much sense." And she goes, "Yeah, I don't compliment him because I didn't hear compliments." Right. So we have to break those negative patterns in which we call norms, what was normalized back in that day, right? That when she was growing up, and then she had that in her marriage where she wasn't emotionally loved or supported or given compliments. We have to break those. I call them dysfunctional patterns that don't serve you anymore. Right. So that's all the unconscious mindset work. We have to break it and then teach them another way. And it just starts with practicing it. Right. And learning what feels good and what sounds good. And when you start seeing the people you love responding in a different way, this is how the self-esteem and the confidence goes up to be able to communicate your messages and your feelings. And for my singles that go out and date, if they have someone that's critical or controlling, they are so strong and empowered. It's like, "Really nice to meet you. I don't think we're quite a match." And they just move on. They
Sometimes.
don't care. Like before, it's like, "Oh my God, he ghosted me and I really liked him." And I'm like, we don't want someone that ghosts us. That's
Yeah.
God's way of saying, "Not for you. Next."
Yeah,
So it's a
yeah,
whole way of looking at it. No, we don't take that personally. It's like, okay, well, he's not emotionally healthy. He's not mature. Like, he's not for me. Awesome. Glad I found that out early. Let's go on to the next one. So
yeah.
it's just empowerment around everything.
Mm. Wow.
but you're not mean to him. You don't yell and scream, why'd you ghost me? You don't send him a nasty text. You say, you know what? After giving it much thought, I don't think we're quite a match. I wish you a lot of luck in life and love.
Hmm.
Done.
And what did you call
So
that?
that's empowered kindness.
Empowered kindness. Wow. And it's like you're not giving them your power. You're not hurt and yelling at them and
Doesn't
talking
phase
trash to
us.
them. Wow.
And
All
that's
right.
where the self-love piece is, Donald, right? Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
Because, you know, he's just not right for you. You don't care.
Yeah.
Just move on.
Good.
Yeah,
Better to know early than know 10 years later,
that's right.
right?
That's
All right. So, yeah. If you don't mind telling people where they can find you at,
sure.
you do a lot of
Of
great work.
course.
So,
The best place to start is my website. It's my name, Riana Milne. On there is a lot of free gifts. You can start with taking the 4 free love tests for singles and couples. There is also a free ebook on how to have the love you deserve, and it goes into the childhood traumas and their relationships in life, love, and career. So make sure you get the ebook. It's full of great information. I have my podcast, Lessons in Life and Love with Coach Riana Milne, and I have 109 shows now, some great guests and a lot of great information between life, love, mindset, dating techniques for couples, parent, child stuff. So all kinds of great topics. It's on every podcast platform. And for my best-selling books on my website, you can get the first 60 pages of Live and Love Beyond Your Dreams for free. So take advantage of all those resources on my YouTube channel, Riana Milne. I've got, I think, 250 educational videos and audios.
wow. Yeah. I'm gonna be looking at that as soon as we get off this call here. Look
Okay.
forward to it. It was a pleasure having you, Rihanna. Thank you so much for sharing your time, sharing your expertise. Wow, you are great. You're definitely epitome of great. And anyone out there who wants to learn more about what she offers, go check her out. She's doing it. She's doing the work. She's leading guys, and yeah. So that's another great example of another way to do it, guys. Appreciate you
I
guys.
just want to, encourage all these people that, dream big. It's time to create the life you desire and have the love you deserve. Don't settle. And
Mm,
if you need help, reach out and get it, because help is all around you. So life is short. Go for it.
that's right. Well, thank you, guys. Thank you, Rihanna, for being here. Thank you, everyone in the audience. We're gonna end the show. All right.